Hi, Alan Shields here, Chief of Police for the town, and we are 10-8 and in service, which means we're here to make people's lives better, and we do that by safeguarding the lives, rights, and property of everyone we serve. We are a little late today. Sometimes police work comes first, so I will let you know what that is. But we did have a bank robbery today, and I'll cover that later in the episode. And I'm actually going to cover how we investigate in-progress crimes because we don't get those that often, and so I want you to know what goes into that. And we're going to give you a little bit. We were going to kick it off a couple weeks ago after the 4th of July, but we're going to give you some kind of behind the scenes look. Like, what does your police department do to provide service? What goes into planning and executing a safety plan for a 4th of July parade? What do we do? And we had thought that would be good to kind of give you not every detail. We have to keep some things a little secret, but we want to give you some idea of what it is that we do when planning and preparing to provide for a safe environment for the many events we have. Also, we thought it'd be good when we have these events like this, like we had an armed robbery today at a bank. What does the police department do in the way of response? Like, how do we, and I'll speak in generalities for the typical response, but how do we respond to those? Like, what are some of the techniques that we use when responding? And what might you see in the public? And if you're one of the witnesses, what might we ask of you so that we can have the best possible response? As always, we want to cover some of these. Please sign up for the community warning system. That is through the Contra Costa County Office of the Sheriff. There is a link in the description. Click on it. It takes you 2 minutes to fill it out, and then you will be alerted should something bad happen. Prepare yourself by downloading both the Contra Costa County Residents Guide to Wildfire Preparedness and Evacuation and the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. Those are 2 great guides. We're actually covering the Wildfire Preparedness Guide right now, and we had just went over the FEMA All Hazards Checklist. And then visit the PG&E website. It's a great site for information on power outages and when they're going to come back up and what you can do to be prepared. Very, very good site. So make sure you download that material, go over it with your family, stick it in a drawer. But I'm going to cover some specific things, and we're going to talk about what you should do for your home coming up at the end. So make sure you stay tuned through the entire episode. We're going to move on to crime. If you remember last week, it was a horrible week for crime. We had 6 good days and 1 horrible day where we went through, and I think there were like 9 or 10 reported crimes. I think we had 8 cars broken into and 4 or 5 homes. That was a horrible week. We usually have somewhere between 25 and 50 burglaries total for a year. And last week we reported 5 in 1 week, 1 day. So that was an absurdly bad week for us. Well, this week was actually quite a bit better, and I'm going to cover that. But communitycrimemap.com, this is where you can see what your police department is responding to. It gets uploaded several times a day to this site. And you can also get Megan's Law information there, so you can get some information on the sexual offender registry there as well. And let's look at traffic. Traffic actually outnumbered our crime. So we had 1 injury collision, a property collision, and a hit and run. And I do want to talk about the hit and run. So we had a non-injury collision on the 15th, and that was at Town and Country Drive in Appian Court. And that was basically a right-of-way violation in the intersection. And this is the reminder to slow down and be patient. On the 15th, we also had a an injury collision on Camino Tasajara and Old Blackhawk Road. And this was a rear end with minor injuries, no transport. On the 18th, this was a sideswipe collision. This was on Sycamore Valley Road in Camino Ramon, and the suspect fled, but it was captured on the Tesla cam. And the message I want to send is, if you have a Tesla or there's other cars, BMWs have them too, but they have the cameras that are inside and they record automatically, but they don't save automatically all the time. And so you have to know the settings for your car. So if you get one of these new cars and it's got cameras in it, or if you go on and you buy one of those cameras and you put it up yourself, we would ask you to just take a moment to go through the settings and make sure that it's set up to record on crash. And then figure out what the manual trigger is. And I'll give you the Tesla as an example because that's what was here today. In the Tesla, you can configure your car. It should record upon crash, but you can also configure it to record if you honk the horn. And so if you're involved in an incident, or if maybe you're not even involved, but maybe your car, you are a witness to an incident and you want to capture it knowing that it's on your video, well, simply honk your horn, and what it'll do, if you have it set up in your settings, is it will freeze that recording, and it will identify when the horn was honked in your settings. That's really important to officers. And in this case, the Tesla cam did actually capture that. So we will be able to follow up. We've got the license plate. So we're going to be able to follow up with the suspect in this case. And this is a good opportunity for us to make that victim whole. If all we had was a description of the vehicle, maybe we could solve it using our cameras in town. But when we've got the car and the plate and everything on your camera, that's a no-brainer for us. So kudos to the owner of the car for really knowing how to use their car and getting us the information we need to solve that case. All right. On last week, we talked about it. The week prior, we had, well over 10 crimes that week. I think 8 auto burglaries and 5 residential burglaries, and then some others filtered in there. All of last week, we had one that was reported. And ironically enough, it actually occurred the week prior on the 12th. So on the 12th, the crime happened, but on the 15th, we were alerted of the report, and we took a report of a theft of a wallet. And they're not sure where it was taken from, but the resident lived on Chatsworth, down in the center of town. So we took the report. They were alerted because they were getting fraudulent charges on the credit cards from within their wallet. And so we track it back from there. And that's how we usually work on solving that. All right. So today, the reason we were late was we had an armed robbery. So I'd like to give you an update on the armed robbery that occurred earlier today. All right, on Wednesday, July 24th, 2024, at about 12:28, we received a call of a robbery in progress at the Wells Fargo, and that's at 585 San Ramon Valley Boulevard in Danville. We were told, and through our investigation, determined that 3 black males with handguns robbed both the people inside the bank and the bank itself of money and property. They fled in a gray Acura. We later recovered that Acura in a neighboring city. We have collected that car, and we'll be processing both the car as well as the crime scene using our crime lab to do a detailed process of that scene. Anyone with information on this case, if you've got that Tesla video, if you've got any of that, we're asking you to call Sergeant Dan Lynch. He's our lead detective, supervising detective, and his number is 925-314-3701. So that is our update on that crime. And what I want to do is I want to explain how is it that the Danville police, and frankly most police, how do we respond to these crimes? And I'm just going to give a very brief overview so you can kind of understand what goes into it and how we work together with neighboring agencies. And frankly, how being part of the big agency, the sheriff, really is a force multiplier really from the time of go. So how do these calls usually get initiated? These are usually initiated by one of you, right? By an alarm, by a phone call. And so the first that we hear of it is through our dispatch center. And those are our dispatchers at the sheriff's office. And I'm telling you, they are the best in the industry. They are fantastic. Here's what I'll say the problem is. They are so good that oftentimes to people calling in, they can seem short and brief. And because what they're trying to do, if you're calling in saying, I've been robbed, that bank is being robbed, they're trying to get very specific information as quickly as they can so that our supervisors in the field can make an assessment on who needs to respond, how many need to respond, and with what equipment and resources, right? If it's what we would call a cold report. So, hey, the bank was robbed an hour ago, nobody's here, right? We'll send a couple of officers. We'll maybe throw a detective down there. But there's no reason to send a force large enough to protect people because there's not a risk to people anymore. That risk has subsided. In a case where it's actively taking place, we're going to send enough units right to the scene so that we can protect the people that are there. That's one element. The other element that we're going to deploy is going to be the catch the bad guy element. It's going to be an element that is out actively looking for our suspect. And all while we're doing that, we're going to be calling our central county agencies, so San Ramon on up, and we're going to let them know the information that our dispatchers are getting from all of you as far as vehicle description of the person, direction of travel. That's why those details matter, is because we're activating multiple elements in response to the report that you're giving us. So that dispatcher, and I somewhat forward apologize, but it really isn't an apology. They're going to be very, very good at their job to get us the information so we know exactly how to respond. So I call that the chaos section, right? So in the chaos section, we're trying to preserve and protect life. We're trying to make sure that life safety is our top priority. And then we're also trying to preserve evidence, and solve the crime. What we need to do first, though, is we need to stabilize the scene. So we may give a very clear direction as to what we need. We may request that people go to a certain location. We're going to triage the scene to determine if anybody needs help from our great folks over at the fire department. So we're going to do that kind of a triage. We're going to go and we're going to start at life safety on down. As soon as the life safety portion is taken care of, now we're looking at preserving evidence. So areas where maybe suspects have touched, we're going to try to move people away from it because we don't want those contaminated, because we know eventually we are going to bring our crime lab down. So that's where you see crime tape. So we start to tape things off and we start to make sure that nobody enters that area where the scene is so that we can preserve all of that evidence and do our best to try to solve that crime. While that's happening, you're going to see people, as you're aware, we have an ALPR, a license plate and a camera system in town. We're going to actually have people that don't actually ever respond to the field to the crime because they're going to be doing the data analysis side as the crime is unfolding. So as we're getting information about the type of vehicle, about the information, all of that is going to be put out. And we're going to be processing and managing that information. And so that's the investigation stage. So in that stage, we're interviewing witnesses, we're taking down statements, we're having our crime lab come down and process the scene. Oftentimes they're doing fingerprint analysis, DNA analysis, they're doing photographs. If there's shoe prints that are relevant to the case, they'll take impressions of those. So there's a lot that goes into that. And sometimes it can be an hour to process a scene. And we've seen it recently, sometimes upwards of 6 hours to process even a very small scene, only because there's so many components to that scene. And then from there, we start to coordinate with other agencies. We look to see if there's similar crimes involved. And we have if you remember those Be on the Lookout posters, we have something similar to that, but it's a digital, it's a little more up to date. And we send that out to all local agencies and see if there's similar cases. And then generally, we do meet with a lot of the agencies in the area on a regular basis, and we will present cases in those to see if there's anyone that has any additional information. And then we also put out information on social media. So what you'll see later on today is we're actually going to put out a quick social media blast. We have had some queries from some of the news agencies. And the way we handle that is when there's a news agency that requests information, we will give them a release, and then we usually put it out on social media as well. So those agencies that maybe didn't request the release, they will get the release as well. All right, so that's kind of the down and dirty on how we respond to those. But if you're the victim or the witness, what we would ask is you to please be patient because we're going to work through those priorities, but we need your statement. And so sometimes it is really, I've been on the other end. When you're the victim or witness, it is really frustrating when an officer says, wait here, please don't go anywhere, as they go and they start triaging and working through their priorities. And, we've got maybe 3-5 officers processing a scene because you have the other element out looking for the people and processing maybe other scenes. And so it may take a while. If you've got 5, 10, 15, or 20 witnesses, it may take a while to go through and do thorough interviews with each one of those people. And this is where I'll ask for your help ahead of time. Please be patient with us. We do want to interview everybody. We do want to make sure we get good information, and we do want to try to solve these cases. I think we do very well. But we do well because of the support that all of you show us. And a lot of that support is really packaged in the form of patience. So I do appreciate all the patience that you show. All right. This is a live show. So if you have questions, please go ahead and throw your questions in here, and we will work to answer them. So Contra Costa News, first off, thanks for jumping on the feed here. A press release on the bank robbery would be helpful. Be happy to give you one. You can email me. I'll throw my email address in there, and we'd be happy to get it out. And then Celeste says, does Jimmy Lee... Sorry, if I don't put that in now, I might forget. So there's Contra Costa News. There's my email address. All right. So Celeste says, don't press releases go through Jimmy Lee at the SO? Is he still there? Jimmy Lee is what we would call the PIO god for the sheriff's office. He is awesome. He does a great job, and he really does uphold the image of law enforcement and specifically the sheriff's office. And he does it because he does it so well because he's so consistent with his messaging. But in the contract cities, so those you don't know, I am a lieutenant with the sheriff's office assigned to the town of Danville as the chief of police. So I'm a lieutenant with the sheriff's office assigned to the town. So in the town, we will handle the majority of our press releases, the majority of our press contact, and we do that through Jen Starnes. So Jen has been with us for a couple of years. She came from a very big city, very talented, very good, very responsive, and she does a phenomenal job with our social media. So if you've looked at our Town of Danville page and our police page, it's really been improved because of the efforts of Jen Starnes, and then on the police department side because of Lindsay Ortiz, our public outreach coordinator. So when it comes to those things, I think we're doing a very good job. If you have suggestions, you got my email there. I'm more than happy to take them on. But when it comes to information coming out from the Danville Police Department, most of the times you'll see it come directly from Jen Starnes or myself. If it is very large cases or officer-involved cases, that's when Jimmy Lee and the team up north at the sheriff's office jump in and handle the communications, and that's usually the dividing line there. So Celeste, great question, great opportunity to explain that. Code Zero, filming fire trucks right now. I'm here with you guys, so if there's a fire response, I'm not aware of what it is. So if you have the location, I can get you information on that. All right, moving on. We're going to go to the arrest, the arrest log. On the 16th, we booked a man into the county jail after he was arrested for DUI. And this is a great neighbor reporting. This is, you see something, you say something, let us come out and take advantage of what you see. The driver hit a tree and then continued to drive and was driving in a unsafe manner. So the caller called the police. We responded quickly and determined the person was driving under the influence and then booked him into jail. On the 16th, the minor was arrested for possessing alcohol in public, and they were arrested on El Cerro near Diablo Road, and they were released to their parents on a citation. So, the first one, really kudos to the neighbor. A lot of people may see it. They may see the car park and they don't make the report. But this neighbor did something good. And, being arrested can't be fun. It's not good. But certainly allowing that person to continue to drive and risking people's lives and risking that someone gets hurt or worse, that's no good at all. All right. If you have any questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. Happy to answer any of those that you may have. On the Wildfire Preparedness Guide, we've got, I think, 2 more. We're going to cover go bags next week. We're covering, how to prepare your home here. But in the guide, you'll learn how to prepare your home, have a plan, make kits for you, your dog, stay informed, and encourage you to know your neighbors. So what can you do for a power outage before fire season? What should you be doing? We cover it at the beginning and end of every show. Sign up for those CWS alerts. There is a link in the description. Make sure you have the PG&E's website on. And I know there's some other stuff in here, but the big ones are keep your mobile phone charged. Make sure you have water stored. And in fact, let's do this. I'm curious now, those that are watching live, those that are watching on the recording afterwards, put in the notes, what are some of the things that you specifically keep in preparation should the power go out? Should there be a wildfire? Or should you be stuck in your house? What do you have? For us, I have a bunch of water. So we go to Costco and we just fill up on cases of water and we kind of cycle through them so that we make sure we have fresh water. But we cycle through those. But then I also take these big 7-gallon jugs and I have several of those and I fill them up. And then about every 6 months, I just go out to the yard and I water the yard with the water from those jugs. So I'm at least not throwing it down the drain. And that's how we keep a lot of water. And then we have a lot. I mean, we have 3 boys in our house, so we've got a lot of food usually on hand. But I also have bins of dried food packaged that will last like 25 years, and I make sure to keep that as well. And then we've got candles. I've got a lot of lights. We've got a hand crank radio. We've got a lot of phones. We've got a lot of small portable chargers. I also have a small, like 2,200 watt generator. So I can power my fridge, I can charge back up our phones and those things, and I keep all those things active. So when it comes to basic needs, and we don't have any unique functional needs, we don't have any unique medical or dietary needs that would require us to maybe level up a little bit, but we certainly have our basic needs taken care of. So let's look at that list. The garage door is an interesting one, and we've talked about this before, but if you park your car in the garage, make sure you know how to open the garage should all the power go out. In my garage, we actually have a battery backup. And so when the power goes out, we can still open the garage. If that doesn't work, those in my family, we know how to pull. And the springs on my garage recently broke, so I had to fix them. And so I know how to raise and lower the door, and I know it's properly weighted so that anyone in my house can actually bring it up. So we're good there. And then what do you do during and after? So we have an idea how to prepare, but what happens during and after? If you do not have your fridges and freezers plugged in, try to keep them closed. At about the 6-hour mark, you're going to have to start throwing food out. And when in doubt, the idea is you throw it out. Use generators. If you have outdoor stoves and grills, those are great. And it does say disconnect appliances and electronics to avoid damage, because sometimes when the power comes out, you can get a power surge. And then do check on your neighbors. I know that sounds, it shouldn't sound silly, but you got to check in on your neighbors and see how they're doing. Make sure that they're taken care of. All right. And then what do you have for a home shelter in place kit? Like, what do you have ready? So I know it would frustrate us when like the power would go out and we were looking for things. Some things were scattered about the house. And I think it was good for us to kind of have certain tools in one location so that we didn't have to worry about it. And so some suggestions are moist towelettes, garbage bags, hand sanitizer, cell phones with power backup. I don't need to put my cell phone anywhere. It's always tied to my hip. Important documents is a funny one. They keep putting these on here, but everybody stores that in the cloud now. Well, not everybody. Someone's going to get on the chat and tell me I shouldn't do that. I should keep hard copies, right? Pet supplies. This is kind of a big one, especially if your pet needs medicine. Make sure you know where that is. Blankets. And this goes for your car too. You should have a little kit in your car, especially during the winter when it gets really cold. If you get stuck somewhere in the snow, if you're going up to Tahoe or something and you're stuck and you don't have a blanket or anything like that, it's going to be really harsh. So make sure you have all that. Some of the big ones is have a NOAA crank radio, something that you can get messages. If you remember, we talked about it before when we went up and we responded to assist with the Vacaville fires. All of those cell towers on the ridgeline were gone. We had no cell coverage. So if we're going to put information out and there's no cell coverage, there's no internet, it is going to be on those NOAA radio channels, or it's going to be on our AM radio channels. So make sure you have a radio that you can crank or that you've got a lot of extra batteries for. And if you're going to be cooking inside, make sure you use a carbon monoxide detector. So if you're using fire, we should be using fire inside. It says, consider keeping cash on hand in case ATM and credit cards cannot be used. And there is some truth to that. When the businesses go down, some businesses will close entirely because they can't process payments. Others will take cash, but you have to have cash. So if you don't have cash, you're not going to be able to go down to Circle K or one of the other stores and get what you need. So make sure you have that stuff on hand. Consider what you might need. And here's a good thing to do is just go throughout a week and just write down the things that you use that you need to use, right? And that'll give you a good idea for what you need. All right, I'm going to check and see if there's anything left in the chat. Okay, we've got some suggestions. Celeste, perfect. Flashlight and batteries. Make sure you've got the basics, right? If you can't see, you can't find anything else. Me personally, when it comes to flashlights, I have some next to my bed. I've got some in the junk drawer out front. We've got some in the garage, and then I have some in a closet. So we kind of keep them all over. Kim says, I bought dried foods after your report last year. Good. I have bulbs that recharge in the lamps. So when the lights go out, you can just, I have not even heard of those. I feel silly. I feel like I'm going to make that statement. Do they even make those? That's actually pretty good. So there's lamps that Kim is saying that you can actually screw them into the light and they actually will retain some power. So they must have some sort of battery in there to be a battery backup in the light itself. That's pretty cool. So good suggestion, Kim. That's something I have not heard of. Okay, I'm looking over on YouTube. Code Zero saying flashlights and battery packs. And he also has a question. This is a great, Code Zero must be my right-hand person here because they're giving me a plug right now. Does Danville Police do shirts or hats that are available to the public? Yes. One catch, though. They're not free. And you don't have to buy them either. So that's kind of strange, right? What you do have to do, though, is you have to attend our Citizens Academy. So if you want to come to our Citizens Academy, and you can join us upstairs, and for 7 weeks, we'll show you everything that we do. We'll take you out to the range. We'll let you shoot the pistol, rifle, shotgun. You'll do a force scenario where you're the officer, where you have to use de-escalation tactics, and you have to use your words to try to calm somebody down. We'll bring you to the jail for a tour. We have a lot of fun. I think it's fun, but it's fun with a purpose. We want you to understand what we do. And the flip side is we want you to provide us feedback on what we can do better to serve the community. While you're there, we give everybody a shirt. It's a nice little shirt, has the Danville logo on it. has our slogan, Making Lives Better, on it. And so, yeah, we do. They're not free, but they don't cost you anything except for your time. You have to hang out with us. So good question, Code Zero. All right, so we have a community meeting that I'm heading to, but I want to remind everybody, please download the community wildfire preparedness and evacuation plan, and then also the FEMA all hazards checklist. Sign up for the community warning system. That is how you will be alerted if something bad happens. And then go log into the PG&E website. And Code Zero, I'm checking you out here. I wouldn't think I'm old enough for the Citizens Academy. So there's the catch. We actually have an adult Citizens Academy that's 18 and over. Then we have a youth academy and a junior academy. And what we do is we hold those at the beginning of summer, every summer. And it's for high school age kids and middle school age kids. And so we try to cover everybody. And what we do is we make it age appropriate. Clearly, we don't bring kids to the jail. That's not appropriate. No kid's going to shoot a firearm at the police department. That's not going to happen. And so we do make the content age appropriate, and we try to make it fun, and we try to let the youth understand what it is that we do. And not unlike the parents, we do solicit feedback. What can we do better to serve the community? Because we don't just serve the adults in the community, we serve everyone in the community. All right. So Code Zero said they did the Youth Academy. All right. So now I'm going to have to figure out who Code Zero is. All right. So thank you. That is our show for tonight. I appreciate everyone joining me late tonight. We were doing, as part of that robbery that happened today, we were in the middle of the debrief, and I needed to make sure I managed that. So I appreciate you sticking around, joining us live. For those watching later, thank you for queuing this up. Really appreciate your support. We are 10-10. That means we're off duty, but we're always 10-8 and in service to all of you. Have a good night, Danville.